It's tempting to look at Palmeiras' route over Santos and highlight Flaco Lopes' goals and his incredible form. But what was fundamental for Palmeiras to break through Santos' defense and create the spaces that led to the goals was exactly what the striker did without the ball.
If you're still not convinced that Flaco Lopes is the best and smartest player in Brazil in 2026,
this video is going to make you change your mind. This goal here that Flaco Lopes scored to open the scoring came from a pattern of play built around a movement Palmeiras used many times throughout the match. And for us to understand a little better, we're going to go back to the beginning of the match against Santos to understand a bit of what Abel planned for this game, the changes he's making at Palmeiras also after Alan left and with another change in the tactical formation. Palmeiras tried really hard to press Santos' build-up, which is something quite common, natural in today's football, right? A very well-executed high press. That didn't let Santos build up. You can see here, the marking is really tight, very strong pressure on the player with the ball, and with that Palmeiras would recover and restart the attacking process.
And here we start to understand a bit of these tactics. Piqueres has the ball. Notice that Mauricio and also Andres Pereira, the two players here offering him a passing option, are facing the ball, turned towards the player in possession.
What's behind this movement here? The idea is always to offer support, a passing option, and the chance to make a play so the ball can keep moving or advancing on the field. So both of them turned towards the ball to offer a passing lane, but Piqueres decided not to start with them.
He passed it back to Marlon, and they do the same thing. They were facing Piqueres, turned towards Piqueres, then turned to Marlon to offer a passing lane to Palmeiras' number 17. Palmeiras keeps working the ball, stitching the play together, moving it from side to side. So far, everything is fine, normal, natural.
Everything within the flow of the game. If there's no space, you restart, switch sides, move the defense to try to create a play. Here we start to see these movements from Flaco Lopes, showing a lot of intelligence on his part. Of course, also guidance from Abel, and the way he reads the play ahead of time. Both of those things can be seen in how this gradually opened up Santos' defense. So here, Flaco positions himself, moves in the space between the two defensive lines. Santos had the first line of 4 players and a second line in midfield as well, right? With a pair in the middle and 2 wide players.
And Flaco Lopes was always looking to move around in that space, behind that line, to offer a passing option, to provide a chance to receive the ball, turn, and face the goal.
And we're going to see that a lot here. So Gomes has the ball, Flaco is already making himself available and asking, hey, play it into me here, I'm open. Gomes prefers to make another choice. Like I said, moving the ball from one side to the other, being patient to shift the defense and find space. Since that ball didn't go to Flaco, there he is. At this first moment, he comes here and makes a move to drop back. He comes back to try to give Murilo a passing option, but Murilo prefers to pass the ball to Jair. Okay, you might even think these movements are nothing special. Fine, he's just dropping back to give a passing option to the player with the ball. That's normal. But when you play against a team that marks man-to-man, like Santos does, like many teams do in Brazilian football, a player with this kind of movement ability like Flaco, man, that's gold. Here in this play, for example, the simple fact that he drops back a little to give Murilo a passing option, which he didn't even use, messed with Santos' marking. Why? Now Schmidt, who was one of Santos' midfielders, he leaves his line, he leaves the midfield to match up with Flaco, to close the distance, to get tighter, not to give Flaco the chance to receive the ball or control it and turn with space. By doing that, he leaves a gap behind him, and that gap behind him is going to be exploited in this play by Andres Pereira,
which will force William Arau to leave his position more to the right, to run inside, to the left, to cover up that gap.
Because the Santos winger, in this case, in this game, had the job of marking the fullback. So the player who played on the side of the field would track back with the fullback, and the fullback would often track back with the midfielder. He closely marked the midfielder who started wide and moved inside, in Palmeiras' case.
But since Palmeiras had a lot of movement, these matchups were more zonal, right? What does that mean? So Escobar here would mark, for example, the midfielder who moved in from the right.
But if the midfielder went to the other side of the field, Escobar wouldn't follow him, because that could create a very big gap. That wasn't the choice Cuca made for this game. So Flaco drops back, opens up space, Andreas makes a run, asks for the ball. Hey, I'm going, pass it to me up front. Because William Arau is already behind in the run. Andreas is making his move, and William Arau is still reading what he's going to do. And here, besides that, in this space, there's no fullback who got caught in the middle. He got a bit lost with Palmeiras' movement. And the winger is on the other side, marking GI. In other words, on Santos' right side here, there's no one marking. But the Palmeiras isn't going to exploit it right now. They'll try to pass to GI later. They're not going to try it at first, right? With Murilo. Murilo had the ball here. He preferred to make a sideways pass to GI. Then, yes, GI noticed this movement, and he makes the long pass to Andreas. But here, there's a problem that happened a lot with Palmeiras in the first half of the game. They made too many mistakes with this kind of pass, right? The spaces were there. Palmeiras was able to manipulate Santos' marking through their movements.
But they missed too many passes. Too many passing errors made Palmeiras make little progress up the field. And because of that, it took them longer to create a chance.
The play continues. Santos tries to move from defense to attack. They can't. The ball bounces back. That also happened a lot throughout the game. Santos had no ability to retain possession throughout almost the entire game. So the ball bounces back to Palmeiras. And here again, Flaco, look, he's very far from the box, but he's actively participating in the game. Whether by offering a passing option or dragging a defender, he's participating. Murillo gets the ball, and this time he's going to pass it to Flaco Lopes. Notice that before the ball arrives, it's already halfway there. And here, these are very small details, but they show Flaco's ability, his intelligence and reading of the game. Murillo passes the ball to Flaco. The ball is in the middle. The ball is exactly halfway between Murillo and Flaco. Flaco has already turned his head to the other side to take a look at the situation. He checks who he has near the passing lane, sees who's running in behind, sees which defender is close to him. He kind of scans everything there and understands what his next pass will be. So he read it, came back. The ball came in, he received it, he's already going to turn and go forward, gets past William Arau, and now what was the best option here? A pass, in fact, in behind for Vitor Roque. He even had the possibility to play it short here with Mauricio. Mauricio moved forward, but Vitor Roque was already making his run, and this is a very strong play from Vitor, and it's a play that Flaco and he combined very well, right? Flaco as the bow and Vitor as the arrow, right? The player who's going to burst into this space and run in behind. Here he's already attacking. He intelligently moves to the side to attack the space behind the fullback and get in behind in this situation here. But then, again, as I mentioned in the previous play, bad pass, right? Flaco doesn't get enough on it. Credit to Igor Vinicius for getting the interception too. Palmeiras then commits a foul right after. So here you could understand what Palmeiras' intention was with this movement. To really break Santos' marking assignments, to be able to create space, and then take advantage to create chances. But at that point in the game, the problem was the mistakes Palmeiras was making, especially on passes. A lot of mistakes in the build-up play. And that made it so the team couldn't actually get into the areas for crosses or passes that could lead to a shot.
Here in this play, we can see exactly the setup I mentioned, right? This new Palmeiras without Allen, back to the 4-4-2.
There are 4 players in the midfield. At the base, Andreas and Marlon play. And Arias and Mauricio come inside from the flanks, with Arias and Mauricio playing inside from the flanks.
Besides Flaco, who moves a lot, Palmeiras always has 3 players moving behind the opponent's midfield line, right? In front of the defensive line.
And then Marlon drops back to build a back 3 here with the center backs, right? He drops between Murillo and Gustavo Gomez to form this back 3. And Andres can still drop both on the right side and on the left side to also offer a passing option. And Palmeiras comes out well supported going forward, right? 4 players working there in the first line. The midfielders come inside, the fullbacks provide depth, and Vitor Roque is out wide. Vitor Roque is also up front, moving to receive passes, accelerating into space. So Palmeiras here, they build up from the back. And again, it's the same approach. Patience, calmness to work the ball, and looking for spaces. And here again, Flaco Lopes' influence. Flaco is going to move away from the center, a bit more to the right side now. And now Escobar is the one who will pick him up. Remember when I said that the fullback wasn't following the player all over the field and everything? They were using man-oriented marking, but in a more zonal way. So if a player moved into Escobar's area, Escobar would pick him up. If a player moved into Joao Schmidt's area, Joao Schmidt would pick him up.
Santos was working strategically. They played this way in this match.
So Flaco is here, positioned more in Escobar's area, because the fullback pushed forward and the winger tracked back with him. In Santos' case here, that's not what happened. The Santos winger dropped back and GI pushed up. He attacked the space, so it's a duel between them.
Flaco moved into Escobar's area. Escobar comes in, closes down, narrows the space, and then John Arias is back here. Look, moving around, also looking for an opportunity behind Joao Schmidt.
Andreas Pereira receives the ball, gains some ground. And notice again Flaco's reading of the game for himself and for Escobar. So he drew the fullback with him, and that naturally opened up space. And he signals here with his hand to Arias, go, make the run, get into this space here, because there's room for you to move forward. So he signaled that to John Arias. Andreas moves up with the ball and tries to pass to Jai. The through ball to Jai here was also a good decision, but once again, poor execution. He tried a chip pass. The pass came out kind of weird, right? The ball went up a lot, and when it came down, it didn't give Jai any advantage. So what does he have to do? Start the play over, and you have to give them credit for being patient here. You're not going to try to attack any way you can. Like I got into a zone here where I could cross. I could try a pass into the box, a shot from mid-range. I'll just do it anyway. Number 2, if I don't have an advantage in the play, I pass the ball back, and I'll work to try to find that space. The ball goes back to Andreas, and here are the uncertainties. Because of these switches that Palmeiras made based on the movements, many times a player was left unmarked. Sometimes 2 players were left unmarked. So here, in this specific play, Andreas receives the ball and he's free. He's alone. He was left unmarked in this play because he came from behind and had no one marking him.
The winger on this side is matching up perfectly with Mauricio. With Giai, just like it was supposed to be done. And here, Andreas was left unmarked. So Joao Schmidt, who in this play is marking Flaco, there was a switch, right? Now Flaco is being closely followed by Joao Schmidt, and Escobar is free. He's signaling to Escobar. Go ahead. Close in. Reduce the space on Andreas Pereira. And Escobar is going to make this move, as Escobar runs to try to cut off a passing lane from Andreas.
Pereira Flaco goes behind him. So this system often leaves you exposed somewhere else, right? If you can move the pieces well against the matchups, you have space to attack. And Palmeiras, I repeat, managed to manipulate this very well, man.
Look at this play here, for example. Escobar was on Flaco. Flaco switched to Joao Schmidt. Joao Schmidt and Escobar switched to mark Flaco this time.
Andreas was the one left free. He didn't have to press. It opened up space behind him, and Flaco slipped in behind him. But here, again, the pass didn't go through. Good job by Andreas Pereira. Santos cleared the ball upfield, so we can see that Palmeiras' big problem when creating wasn't a lack of ability to find space. It was actually the ability to take advantage of the space that Palmeiras managed to create. Here again, Palmeiras building up. Look, Marlon drops between the two center backs, Morillo and Gomez. And this time, Andreas Pereira is on the inside. In the previous play, you remember he showed up on the side. This time, he's inside, dropping back to offer a passing option. And look where Flaco is once again, moving around behind the line of the two defensive midfielders. Joao Schmidt and William Arau. He's always there, always moving around to either draw the marking or take advantage of the space someone else creates for him to make a run. So, Marlon starts the play here. Palmeiras is moving up.
Look how interesting Mauricio is here, right? At the start of the play, Mauricio is next to Andreas, but then he moves to offer himself as an option to make a run in behind, an option for Marlon to play a ball in behind.
Here, look, you can see that he went. He didn't even look at Marlon, he just went. Marlon even glanced at him and measured it. But he made a decision. He even made a gesture here, as if he was going to play the long ball. You can see that he's thinking like, I'm going to send this ball to Mauricio because he's making a run in behind. But here, at this moment, he realized there was no advantage. So he gave up, and Palmeiras keeps building up. They're moving up the field, and Santos is tightening their marking. Look, you can see how Verissimo steps out here to close down Flaco.
And at this moment, it's Luan Perez who goes. Lucas Verissimo steps out to close down Roque. And at this moment, it's Luan Perez who moves in to close the distance to Flaco Lopes.
Again, that relationship between the fullback, winger, and midfielder. The Santos winger is here on GI. And then Escobar stepped out to mark Arias because he's in an area where he could operate. So, in theory, everyone is matched up here. Not in theory, in practice, everyone is boxed in. And Marlon has few passing options, more or less.
Because in this specific play here, this Santos player on the side of the field, he moved way inside, right? If his mission is to mark GI,
he's way too far from GI in this play because Escobar is matching up here with Arias. So the fullback went out to mark the winger, the midfielder from the other team. This guy's mission here is to mark this one. He's way too far from GI, really far. And then Marlon is going to force a pass over to GI. And then the domino effect starts, right? Because if in this man marking, someone is out of position or not matched up, it's going to open up space. Because someone will have to come out to cover for the other, and there will always be someone left unmarked.
So here in this specific play, he's way too far. When GI gets the ball, he has to come out to put pressure on GI to try to close off a passing lane.
And by doing that, he's going to open up space behind him, which Flaco has already noticed and is able to exploit. He makes the run. He exploits it and the ball gets to him. Here, you might look at this play and say, well, there's nothing special about this move, right? Just a sideways pass. A run into the space that opens up behind. But Palmeiras isn't really creating anything dangerous from here. There's progression in this play here, which is very important. The team moves up, gets into the attacking half, gets more compact up front, moves the pieces around, and creates space. And that will have a positive effect up front. So Flaco controls it. Here he comes. And here again, the issue of the positive effect, right? He was matched up with Luan Perez, remember? He moved out to the wing. And Luan Perez went with him. Luan Perez was marking him. He kept going. Marlon got the ball, passed it back to Flaco. And then here, Luan Perez gets caught in the middle because he was marking Flaco. But after Flaco passes the ball, he thinks, man, I have to get back to my defensive line. I have to get back into position. And then he goes back. But when he goes back, the ball goes back to Flaco. And then he throws his arms up and says, man, you guys are all out of position here. I had to leave my spot to mark a guy on the other side. And now what are we going to do? Then Flaco controls the ball facing forward with a lot of space. And honestly, I even think he takes too long here, you know? And here, in this play specifically, he hesitates. You can see he controls it and he loses a few seconds kind of thinking, I don't know. Maybe. What am I going to do here? Am I going to carry it? Am I going to move forward? Am I going to play a ball to Vitor Roque, who is already down here running in behind Verissimo? In this play specifically, I think Flaco hesitated too much about what he should do, and that delayed the play a bit. You can see that when he starts to speed up, Santos kind of got organized again. Even so, he manages to make a pass to GA, and the cross could have created a goal chance, so Palmeiras is handling these matchups well. Santos is marking here. A lot of it is because of Flaco's movements and his intelligence. Here, again, Palmeiras build up, Marlon and Andreas this time side by side. They are the two players who actively take part in this first step. Palmeiras doesn't necessarily have center backs who are very good at building up play from the back. Maybe Murillo is the best among them, right? But Barbosa and Gomez are players who are better at long passes than playing the ball out from the back. So the build-up here is with Marlon and Andreas. Mauricio and Arias move inside. They come to play between the lines. Palmeiras keeps working to move from defense to attack, building up the play patiently again. This time, look where Flaco is, here on the right side, at the halfway line.
I think it's fair to say that, except for the two center backs and the two defensive midfielders, who are the ones involved in starting the plays.
He's the deepest player for Palmeiras. Here, Arias is inside, Mauricio is too, Roque as well. And the two fullbacks are pushing forward, stretching the field and providing width and a bit of depth on the sides too. So, the ball is here at Andreas Pereira's feet. Palmeiras is working it. They're moving from defense to attack. Ball to Mauricio, to Murillo, right? And they're moving up. Palmeiras is moving up. And then you notice something here. Again, the matter of marking assignments, Flaco leaves his position as the reference point. He comes over to the side. And in this play, he draws two defenders to him. João Schmidt, who's the central midfielder, steps up to him. And here, it seems to be the winger in this play, right? Who should be marking GI. But this time, Escobar stayed back a little more. So both of them are marking the same player. In other words, that means someone else will be left unmarked. It creates space. Or against it here, specifically, look, Aranha is marking Mauricio. So he dropped back between the center backs to mark Mauricio. And Arias has a really good situation here, man. Because look, with the ball at Murillo's feet here, he can either play it out wide or make another kind of pass for Arias to attack down the flank and then get to the end line to make a cross, or he can go inside. Send the ball over the top here so he can beat Luan Perez with his speed and get a shot off, or something like that. But that's not the option Murillo is going to take. He keeps the ball, looks, waits, and so on. He even thinks about passing it to Arias. You can see he hesitates to make the pass, but then he thinks, no, better not. What does Arias do? Again, it's a decoy movement, drawing the defender to create space. He pulls Luan Perez out, away from the box with him, just like Flaco did in that previous play. Then he creates space for Andreas to make a run. He pulls Luan Perez out and opens up space for Andreas. Look at the gap here for Andreas Pereira to get in, because William Arão is marking Mauricio. And he's even signaling here. Look, there's a free man here. And Cabadeiro, who was Santos' striker, is watching. But he's watching from too far away, and Verissimo is marking. So everyone is marked up. But there's space for Andreas Pereira to move forward. Murillo plays this ball to Andreas in behind. He speeds up, tries the cross, the ball goes out for a throw-in. But here's another example of a play that Palmeiras managed to manipulate
through their movements. This marking by Santos, right? That's why I said at the beginning, when we saw the goal, that the goal came from a play that Palmeiras tried to do many times during the game.
This is the play that led to Palmeiras' goal, the one I mentioned from the beginning. So we can see how this play was built from end to end. Palmeiras moves up here with Gustavo Gomes. He has the ball. And now we'll look at some things about these matchups. Mauricio dropped back a lot here, right? He fell back too much to offer a passing option and help Palmeiras get moving. With that, Arão, who is the player that often matched up with Mauricio just because of the area, right? It wasn't man-to-man marking all over the field. He's now trying to mark Marlon, who was the guy that barely got past the ball line in this play. And here Flaco is, look, again, moving behind both of them. He's a little closer to João Schmidt's side and behind William Arão. Keep this information in mind because it's going to be important later on. Palmeiras keeps working the ball once again. Patience to build up the play and trying to mess with these matchups. Look, the two defensive midfielders are here. Flaco is here again, moving in behind them again. And here Andreas makes a move to break through, running inside, running into the box, to offer the possibility of a ball in behind, which is something Palmeiras works on a lot, right? These long passes, which is even something that's often criticized in Abel's team. I think that when it's well executed, it's cool. The problem is when it becomes the team's only resource, which happens in some matches. So the ball is here at Marlon's feet, and Andreas broke forward. You can see that he took off. He took off. The ball isn't going to him, but who did he take with him? Escobar.
And Arias is wider in this play, so Cabadeiro, who is the player on this side of the field for Santos, he's the winger who, in theory, marks GI.
This time, there's another player to mark, which is Arias. That will free up space for GI.
Then Marlon goes and passes the ball to GI. And look how much space he has.
to push up, look up, all that, and choose what he's going to do. He goes for the cross. I actually think this was a bad decision by GI. Decision and execution, right? He crosses the ball. There's not much advantage. Palmeiras doesn't have very tall players in attack, right? And Flaco plays a lot outside the box. So are you going to cross a ball for Vitor Rocha to go up against Verissimo? He's hardly going to win. Man, besides, the cross here wasn't good, right? It was too low. Luan Loma Perez manages to clear it, right? The ball comes back to Marlon. And Palmeiras at this moment, when the ball comes back to Marlon, 3 players are free at the edge of the box. Why? Because as GI received the ball and the defenders were running back, they dropped deep. You can see William Arau running into the box. The back 4 is set up. And everyone is running into the box. William Arau went to provide some cover here, maybe, right? And the defense dropped deep. So the area in front of the defense is left open. And since Santos is always very concerned about trying to match up with the player in the area where the ball is, visually here, João Schmidt doesn't have anyone to mark. So in theory, he's going to wait for someone to enter his area. But Andres Pereira is already inside his area. So Marlon Freitas keeps the ball, patience to build up the play. Santos is reorganizing again. They got set up, adjusted their marking here. But again, the issue is that Santos was often late with its marking assignments. And that created space. Andres Pereira gets the ball out wide here. And then Flaco's persistence ends up being rewarded in this play, right? Because he kept at it for so long during the game. This goal happened right at the end of the first half. He spent so much time in the game hunting for space, trying to read the play, trying to make a move, looking for a spot where he could be freer so he could have a bigger impact on the game. He ended up being rewarded for all that movement, right? Look at what happens when Andres gets the ball. Cavaleiro closes in, but João Schmidt also moves out to put pressure on him. I think João Schmidt made a mistake here. He misread the situation. Because if Cavaleiro was already making this run here to try to mark and pressure Andres Pereira, who had the ball, the Santos player could have held his position a bit more, taken a step back, tried to read what was happening behind him. But no, he just went. He just pushed up and pressured Andres Pereira. That left Flaco free behind him. And here Mauricio was matched up with William Arau, which didn't allow William Arau to provide that cover. Because if Mauricio wasn't here, William Arau could have provided that cover. Close in on Flaco, and again, Palmeiras wouldn't have a passing lane to play. Everything would be very tight, the ball would probably go to the side, and another cross could happen, but that's not what happened here. Mauricio did a very good job of drawing William around and keeping him occupied. That kept him in the center and left Flaco free.
And then when Flaco got the ball, the one who had to come out to mark him was Luan Perez. But Luan Perez was way too far from the play. And then my friend, that's it.
He received it, turned, shot, and scored the goal. That goal from Flaco, and the second one he scored at the end of the game with a header, right? Also showing his range of finishes inside the box. Those were his 20th and 21st goals this season.
Flaco has reached 21 goals and has 11 more assists.
32 direct goal involvements. That's a record number in his career, right? He came into this game with 30. Last season, he had 31 direct goal involvements, 25 goals and 6 assists, but that was in 64 games. This season, he surpassed that number. 21 goals and 11 assists, 32 goal involvements in 44 games. 20 fewer. Flaco's performance has improved a lot, just as his growth has been happening year after year, physically, tactically, and as a finisher. As the guy who reads the game very well. And it makes me say, today in Brazil, Flaco is the best and most intelligent soccer player